We're back. This time we're taking a look at Centauri Saga, the 1.5 upgrade pack from Vesuvius Media. This one is a kind of an errata pack for the original game. It fixes a bunch of cards, it changes a few rules, there's a new rule book in here. It also adds a couple new bosses and a few new models to the game, which are really cool. And pretty much just updates everything to, there's a new box set that's a 1.5 version. So this combined with the original game gives you everything you need to update yourself to that new version of the game. The box is probably a little bit bigger than it needed to be, but they made it the same size, dimension-wise, as the original game so that it fits right on the shelf with it, which is nice. I plan on taking everything out of here and sticking them in my core game anyway, if I can get the boss models to fit. They're the one thing. You'll see when we get to the boss models that Ravager's a pretty big ship once he's put together. But there's also some replacement cards in here, like I said, for erratas. And there's a bunch of new cards to add a little bit more variety to some of the missions, like fixing the jump gate. I think they added a couple cards to make it a little less predictable about what you're going to draw next. Anyway, we're going to get right in and take a look. And then first thing off here, we have our new scenario book. And like I said, they've updated a few of the scenarios. I don't know if they added any. I can't remember on that one. I haven't actually gone through past where I've been playing. I believe they added one or two new ones in there as well. And they changed a lot of the wording on some things that was hard. They did still go with that dark brown background with the black text, which is difficult to read at times, but I can forgive them for that. They also did split the scenario book separate from the rule book. They used to be in the same book, and you had to keep flipping back and forth. So now you have two separate books, which helps. Next we have our new 1.5 core rule book. And again, they've added a few things, changed the wording on a few things to make it a little easier. They did change one or two rules, I've noticed. So definitely if you're a player from the original game, make sure you read through and see the changes, because there are a couple things that are different in there. One of my big complaints about the original game was that the player boards were really thin, and they made these cutouts so that you could put the cubes in there so they wouldn't slide, but the boards were so thin they didn't actually do anything. And now they've made these much thicker boards. They're the same thickness as the tiles for the game. Much nicer, much more durable, and I like these way better. The cubes fit in the holes. And they gave you all 6 to replace the 4 in the original board, original game, as well as the 2 from the 6-player or 5-6-player expansion if you have it. Then the box looks kind of empty after you take all that out. But we have some new cards here. These actually come like shrink wrapped. I put them in these bags just to keep them separated. So the first thing we have in here is 3 replacement captain cards. These replace 3 commanders from the original game. They've updated the text a little bit on them. Just for example here, we have Faye Speedstar. Her original ability was to get back an activation token for discarding a combat token. They reworded it to make it a little more obvious what the intention was on how to you put a combat token on her card now in order to retrieve a activation token, and at the end of the turn you discard the card off her. I didn't think it really needed the change, but they did. Next we have Adam Schott, and his used to be reroll an extra die while exploring. Now it's just reroll an extra die. And then we have Dyson Maverick. His used to be reroll an extra die during while fighting or something, and they changed it to just during combat. More clear wording, which is nice. There is a slight color discrepancy between the new and the old cards. I think the picture's a little clearer too on the new one, but this is the old one in the back here. This is the new one. People have been complaining that the colors don't match. I honestly don't see that big of a deal on these. There are some where you can tell, yeah, on the backs obviously don't match. So when that comes up in an exploration deck, it is pretty easy to tell if you're really paying attention. It's not a game-breaking thing, but If you sleeve them, it's a little less noticeable, but there's definitely a difference in the cards between the new and the old. So next we have some new boss cards. They've actually reprinted one and have 2 new bosses in this. The Black Carrier card, I'm not sure if it was intentional or not, but they did take away the ability to spawn extra raiders. And there's been a lot of talk whether that's an intentional change or not. So whether you should use this new card or the old one. The old one used to have an extra line that spawned 2 raiders and then moved 2 raiders. So interested to see how that actually plays out, which one of those is correct, which one you're supposed to use. But I think you're supposed to keep the old one that had the spawning on there as well, because that's the whole point of the carrier. But the 2 new bosses, these were actually named by people on the Kickstarter. We have the Star Ripper and the Damocles. And they're interesting ships. I haven't actually fought either one of them yet, so I have to see how they play out. And they do have some cool new models for them. This is the Star Ripper. And then the Damocles is kind of boring looking, really. It kind of reminds me of like a cargo ship, but I guess it could be like a frigate too. I'm not sure what it's supposed to represent as far as that goes, but it's an interesting ship. And of course we also have a new model for the colony ship, which was a token in the original game. So this is going to replace that token. We do have new reference cards for each of the players. And these were the ones that told you what the raiders were worth at various levels for killing them, as the game turn order on the back. They did lower the fact that you only get 1 Astardium for killing any level raider now. So that makes it a little more difficult. These are going to replace the old cards. So you get a couple new intelligence report cards, and these are going to get shuffled in with your original ones. Basically just more layouts for the various scenarios. We have a handful of new cards for the fixing the jump gate scenario. These ones are going to get added into the existing deck. Gives you a little bit more variety. Before there was just like exactly enough cards for the 4-player version of the scenario. So you knew what was going to come up if you pretty much, after you played it a couple times and you learned what was in the deck. This gives you a little more variety in what's going to come up in the various events. I think there's a couple new successful ones, a couple new encounters. So, interesting stuff to add to that. There's a new 1 to 4 player retaliation scenario and special things that go with that scenario. So that's cool. I love new scenarios. There's also the new Ravager's Demise scenario and the cards to go up to 4 players with that. I am not positive on which scenario these go to, but there's a handful of new, I think these are for a space station. And then there's these pattern cards, which are also for one of the new scenarios. And then we have some action cards and special action cards. I believe these are replacements with rewording for cards from the original set. I know like these, I believe Pushback they changed to say Raiders instead of Enemy, because you used to be able to use it on bosses. And I'm not sure what they changed on Butterfly Effect. But yeah, so these are going to replace the cards from the original set in your decks to fix wording errors and things like that. Then we have this pack of small cards. A lot of people were confused by these, especially if you don't have the 5 to 6 player expansion. They reworded and changed a couple of the cards for each of the colors. So there's replacement cards in here for every color. But yeah, so you're going to have extra cards in here if you don't have the 5 or 6 player expansion pack, because they included the cards in there for all of the colored ships, even if you don't have them. So you'll have them extra in case you ever do pick it up. And last, we have a handful of new cards for the event deck. I'm not positive if these are new or reworded old ones. Looking through them real quick, I think they're new ones, but if they share the same title as the old ones, then they're there to replace. If they're completely new, then they add more to the deck. I have to double check through. I haven't actually added these to mine yet, so I'm going to have to see. But looking through them, I don't recognize a couple of these, so there's at least a couple new ones in there that I think. But more events. I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing, because events turn out really bad sometimes. And our last thing here, I haven't put him together yet, because once you do, he's going to be a pain to store. This is the new Ravager model. The Ravager was in the original game, he just didn't have a model, he had a little token. So this is going to replace that token. And there you can see he's a giant unwieldy guy. I did not bend the arms in the way that they show it on all of the pictures, because someone pointed out to me that if you do that from the top, it kind of looks like a swastika, and I didn't want to get banned on YouTube for that. So, but you can always put them in creative ways to do whatever. In the end, it's still a really creepy looking ship. And storing it's going to be a pain. You can see I didn't push them in all the way either, so they can be removed. Some people did complain they got theirs broke. Mine's not broke, but I do have a couple that turned white along a crack there. You can see one there, just from shipping. Storing him is going to be a very interesting chore. I'm going to see if I can't find a way to store them, but I may have to take them apart each time, which makes me wonder how long the arms are going to take the being put together and taken apart. We'll have to see, but it is a cool model. So there's a look at everything that comes in the 1.5 upgrade expansion. As I said, if you buy the game nowadays, you can get the 1.5 edition, which already comes with all this stuff included, so keep that in mind if you're looking. But I can't say too much as far as the actual scenarios and new things, because I have not played them. I just got mine. I was excited to do the video for you. But I do love the game, and more missions are always welcome. I like the upgraded components. That's really what I was reviewing here. I can't give you a review on the new stuff because, like I said, I haven't actually used it yet. But the miniatures are alright. The Damocles is kind of disappointing, but the rest of them are cool. I like finally getting the colony ship instead of that stupid token. Same with the Ravager. The new player boards are cool. And I know, like, fixing the jump gate was one of the most difficult scenarios before, and now having the extra cards in there to fluff up the deck a little bit gives you some more options as far as that goes. And overall, though, it's a great pack. Fixes a lot of the problems that the original game had. As much as I love the original game, it did need some work, and hopefully this is going to take care of it. Can't wait to get in and try those new scenarios out, play against some of those new bosses, and see how they are. And get some weird looks when people see the Ravager on the table instead of that little token that they had in the original. As a quick side note here, if you're a fan of Centauri Saga, they have a new expansion pack out. It's the Special Ops. This adds side missions that you can do that unlock new abilities for your commander. Also has a couple new commanders in there. It works with the core game. It works with the 5 to 6 player expansion, the PvP arenas, the Legacy expansion. It can work with that as well. And just a neat little add-on. Vesuvius Media was awesome enough to give me a few copies to give away to my viewers. And for you guys here on YouTube, if you want to post a comment down below about why you like Centauri Saga, I've got a couple of these that I'm going to pick through, and the best couple I see, I'm going to give you guys a free copy of that Special Ops expansion. So if you have Centauri Saga or you plan on picking it up, you can get your hands on one of these for free. Just post a comment down below. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for our look at the 1.5 upgrade pack for Centauri Saga by Vesuvius Media. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.